Oh, you missed my intro. That's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the floor of Freedom Fest. We're here live in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is my least favorite city in the world. If there was a prostitute that was a city, it would be called Las Vegas. In fact, it is. So I'm here live with Ryan Ralston. He works with You Are the People. We're going to find out who he is and what they're doing here and what they're involved with, Liberty Movement, and why we're talking. Sir, you gave me a kind of a good pitch earlier. Do you want to give people a quick background on who you are? Feel free to get real close to the mic. You can take it there. There we go.
Sure. My name is Ryan Ralston. I am the Director of Operations for the nonprofit You Are the Power. Our mission is to defend clients against government abuse and government overreach, and we win. So far, over the past 4 years, we've had a 96% success rate defending our clients against government abuse.
What did you get into that business?
Yeah, so I took a very non-traditional route to get where I'm at now. So I spent 6 years, after I graduated high school, spent 6 years in the military. Was a student for the first 2 years.
Military.
Navy. 2
years a student.
2 years a student, spent 4 years forward deployed overseas, attached to the guided missile destroyer Gonzales. And I had the distinct pleasure of putting ordnance on target for those 4 years. Pressed a button, made things go boom. And got out of the military. I got involved in local law enforcement. I felt it was part of my duty to get back to the community that I grew up in. So I got involved in local law enforcement, did that for 22 years. And that was in Georgia. Yeah, I live in Metro Atlanta. From there, I got involved in criminal legal reform. So I spent time working with the Innocence Project, the Georgia Innocence Project. I had the distinct pleasure of helping exonerate 4 human beings who spent a combined total of over 120 years in prison for a crime they did not commit.
All one case?
This is multiple cases. So it was 3 cases, 4 humans, and we were able to get them exonerated. And it was one of the most proud moments of my life to be part of that. And at the same time, it was equally as heartbreaking to see the utter destruction that those men face while incarcerated for crimes they didn't commit.
Was there one thing that is DNA evidence, or bad cop that was?
Yeah. So for the majority of them, it was witness misidentification followed up by corrupt law enforcement. So there were law enforcement officials who were wantonly and willingly withholding exculpatory evidence, accidentally losing exculpatory evidence for over 25 years. And so rather than acknowledging that they had made the mistakes, they would rather let a human being rot in a cage like an animal during that time. And so most of the cases that we got involved in specifically did not deal with DNA. However, they did deal with new evidence that we were able to uncover during the course of our investigations, evidence that wasn't available at trial.
How common?
6% of the U.S. prison population is factually innocent, 6%, and that includes men and women on death row. So the government builds in a factor of that rate, so they know they can get it wrong at least that many times. And it is extremely difficult once a human being is locked away in the prison system to get them exonerated.
What is the U.S. prison population?
So I'll equate it to my home state of Georgia. So that means that over 2,200 Georgians right now are incarcerated for crimes they did not commit. So if you break it down by state, it's 6% of a state's prison population. So in Georgia, that's again over 2,200 men and women, and that includes men and women on death row who are factually innocent.
How big is Georgia's prison population compared to like? It's obviously going to be population dependent.
It's population dependent. So
California is going to be
So sure. So we have 10 million Georgians right now, and at one point in time, Georgia had the most people incarcerated in the world, right? So the incarceration rate in Georgia at one point, this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
This is per capita? This is
per capita. This is across the country, across the world, I'm sorry. We incarcerated more people. So one of the biggest employers in Georgia is the Department of Corrections and the Department of Community Services, which is probation.
That's a crazy number.
It's a crazy number of people, and it's over policing at its core.
How common is that knowledge? So that's the first time I've ever heard that stat.
Yeah.
And I've seen the innocent, not ignorant.
Sure.
It's not something that's front of mind. Do you think most law enforcement officers know that
No.
statistic?
I mean, when I went through the academy, that was not something that was discussed. So I mean, yes, we did. Yeah, well, I mean, we did talk about probable cause. We did talk about the Fourth Amendment. We did talk about search and seizure. We talked about articulable suspicion. But conveniently enough, we didn't talk about when law enforcement gets it wrong.
Get it wrong 1 in 20 times.
Minimum. And it's not like they get it wrong a little bit. They get it wrong a whole heck of a lot, and they ruin lives in the process.
You guys have a sense of like where the failures are? Is it human error? Is it interest in getting that statistical accomplishment and checking the box where we're closing the investigation? I got to get my, I'm not going to promote without it. Or is it many times accident? Like where's that breakdown?
Yeah, so it's kind of all of the above, right? So when you take a look at an exoneration case, again, most of it falls back onto witness misidentification. So if you want to look at the root cause of witness misidentification, it goes back to that lead of law enforcement investigator who was initially investigating the case and handling that case. Why? Why did they rely on that particular witness? Why did the prosecutor rely on that witness? Was that witness reliable to begin with? Was that witness incentivized by the state? Were they paid? Did they have their sentence reduced in order for their testimony? So those are the factors about witness misidentification. If you're just talking about law enforcement officials just blatantly violating one's constitutional rights, that's the second leading cause. You just have law enforcement officials. Yeah, so they just focus in on winning. They want to close this case out. A lot of the times you'll find law enforcement works a case to probable cause, but they don't work it beyond proof beyond reasonable doubt. So that's when they kind of turn the case over to the prosecutor and say, hey, you can kind of clean up my mess when we go to trial. I've developed enough probable cause to make the arrest. And rather than the checks and balances that are supposed to exist there, prosecutors 9 out of 10, they just kind of go along with it.
You spent time in law enforcement.
Yes.
How do you feel about all that, knowing that was the case while you were there?
Yeah, it was shameful. And so I never was involved in a case. And so ultimately my career led me to working with the district attorney's office in Metro Atlanta, where I was responsible for crimes against children, where I was responsible for major felonies, unsolved murders, and things of that nature. So all the cases that I was responsible for investigating, there was an identified victim. And so we could go back and tie that back in. And so one of the things that I found myself doing quite frequently was having to reinvestigate those cases on behalf of the law enforcement agency that submitted them to us. And so I would have to go back and talk to maybe a chief deputy or chief of police and say, look, you need to train your officers on X, Y, and Z. We are going to dismiss this case. We're not going to prosecute this case because of these particular issues. And so there was a checks and balance system that was put in place that I adhered to because I took pride in the work that I was doing. Right. I don't want to say that there were other officers that I worked with who didn't hold themselves to that standard, but I did see a lot of officers at the local level, on the investigative level, that didn't hold themselves to that standard. And you're talking about mass incarceration, like that's one of the root causes of mass incarceration.
How do you feel about that term? When you hear it, I imagine, and has your thinking evolved on that?
So yeah, the answer is yes. And so you have to take a look at the totality of what we see within the system, right? So you can't just say that this one law enforcement officer is bad and we're going to put him on the Brady list and that's going to solve the issue. But that's just one part of the problem. So to me, it always boiled back down to training, right? In Georgia, for example, when I went through the police academy in 2002, I believe that the academy lasted for a little over 400 hours, 450 hours. That's it. And
hours, 10, 11 weeks?
Yeah, so if it was not quite as long as my military boot camp. If I wanted to get a cosmetology license in Georgia, the length of a requirement for that training is twice as long as what it would require me to get my post certification to be a peace officer in the state of Georgia.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes.
Listen, if you screw up a law enforcement investigation, who cares? But if someone's haircut is screwed,
my haircut looks bad, right? So
right.
It was this perverse incentive, right? So the more I was involved in the system, the more I realized that I needed to get out of that system and get involved in the reform community. And so that was really one of the deciding factors for me. And it was why I got out of law enforcement and got immediately into working with organizations who can help those who have been adversely impacted by that government overreach.
It feels like my microphone might be a little quiet. Is it quiet in your ear too?
On and off.
Very, very weird. I have to. we're doing this thing live. So, folks, we're running this live. We've never actually tried to do anything like this before.
Yeah.
Last time I was sitting in the chair so I could listen to what was going on. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Just for see what I'm wearing. Question earlier, my audience regularly asks me, what am I wearing?
Sure,
and I
sure.
say, well, my Bing Bong's not out, so I'm good.
Correct.
That's
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, let's stand live. It's because I'm muted.
Yeah, it was fading in and
Literally
out. a little
talking
bit.
into a microphone. Wide. Not your fault. So Ryan, the board is glitching. Sometimes we have fun with the. I don't think it's the feds. But the
Gotcha.
board's not letting me run. I'm gonna move this to a different. Maybe I can move this to a different page. Let me do something real quick. I'm gonna assign this to. Nice. That should work. Okay. I think I fixed it.
Yeah, I can definitely hear you now.
Yeah, that sounds like that was probably really frustrating. Sorry, I was like, there's something wrong with this, and
No,
So-
brother, this is live.
yeah, now we're doing it. This is how you know it's live. Okay, so folks, so if you were hearing it and you were thinking that I was a crazy person, I wasn't trying to be crazy. The board actually glitched out and muted my mic,
Yes,
which was not muted before we started.
this is correct.
Cool, good to go. I've lost my train of thought, so I want to dig back into this. You were just saying that you're reflecting on your own training.
Sure.
The fact that this is not taught, is this something that needs to be explained at the academy level?
It absolutely needs to be explained at the academy level, and here's why. Because it comes down to accountability. Because if a law enforcement agency, if the chief of that law enforcement agency is not holding their officers responsible for their bad deeds, someone needs to. So it needs to reflect in the training. So when you are first becoming involved in law enforcement, while you're training, while you're learning policy and procedure and things of that nature, it needs to be instilled in you that you are working cases not only to make an arrest, but to convict, if in fact that's what your ultimate goal is. And so you have these law enforcement officers who just approach it from the perspective of, hey, I made the arrest, I'm done with it.
Just for a second, we're not just talking about street cop, driving patrol. We're talking about investigators,
No,
detectives,
you're
right?
talking about detectives. You're talking about investigators who are supposed to be resident area experts on things like the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, probable cause, and things of that nature.
Right.
And they're receiving poor training. So it all boils down to training. And I'm not talking about standards. I'm talking about training from the get-go at the academy. Now, when you get to go through your field training at your local law enforcement agency or whatnot, you should receive follow-up training through a field training officer. You should get that OJT. You should really get a basic understanding of what you're going to do when you go out there with a badge and gun and have the capability to arrest a human being and put him in a cage. Like, it is a powerful responsibility to have.
For sure.
And what you find a lot of the times is those field training officers don't take their role seriously.
Okay.
They are passing law enforcement officers off of field training and putting them back on the streets because they need bodies. Like, they need warm bodies in cars driving around. And it's that mentality that takes those warm bodies over into investigations. And I think that's where part of the failure occurs. I think that's where part of that failure actually starts.
The model for most law enforcement I've seen, this is going to be state level and then also local level. Federal is obviously a different animal altogether. But the model tends to be, you start off, we put you on patrol.
Yes.
You go interact with the public. You've got a code book.
Yeah.
You've got some citations you can issue.
Sure.
Right? You're going to interact. You're going to get dispatched to things that are ongoing. You're going to be looking for proactive ways you can engage with the community.
Right.
Is that a good feeder to move into investigative work? Does it properly select for the investigators who have the right mentality, do you think? I've always wondered this because I don't have a strong answer.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
The answer, it doesn't, right? It doesn't. So
why?
Because you cut your teeth responding to 911 calls for service.
Sure.
You don't do investigative work during those calls. You want to clear that call quickly and move on to your next call. So you don't get to spend that time truly investigating what needs to be investigated. So you're not properly trained on, hey, did I maybe not interview a witness? Did I not get a witness statement? Did I not take photographs? Did I need to call a detective in to take fingerprints for me? So like, you're really not getting that guidance from Jump Street. And so I think, again, that's probably where part of that failure occurs. So it's not a really good litmus test for who's going to make a good investigator. So again, I think that falls back on the supervisor, the field level supervisor who's out there with their troops, guys and girls, each and every day.
Yeah.
It's incumbent upon them to really, number one, make sure that they receive that additional training. Besides that OJT, like if there's an officer, I was a field level supervisor. If there's an officer that came up to me, he's like, hey, Sergeant, look, I really want to get into investigations. My answer is, okay, let me get you in that schooling. Let me put you within that pipeline to get you the training that you need to develop those skills to get you into investigations. And so it's really incumbent upon that field level supervisor to gain the pulse of their troops, to gain the pulse of the men and women that are working with them on their shift to kind of find out their interests. You know, they have some officers that's like, look, man, I want to respond 911 calls for service. I'm cool here. Like, I don't want to do anything differently.
But there's usually a pay incentive to being an investigator, right?
It's slight. It depends on the agency too.
Okay.
So sometimes it might be like a lateral transfer, right? So you're still an officer, you're just carrying the title of detective. Sometimes there might be incentive pay because you're going to be on call. We'll give you an extra, while you're on call for that week, you get an extra $2 per hour or something like that.
Right, sure.
I mean, so there's not much of a financial incentive.
Okay.
So I think a lot of the times it boils down to pride in your work and your desire to be at that level, your desire to be an investigator, because it is something that not only that I took seriously while I was training the officers that work for me, but it was something that I took extremely seriously when I got into investigations. It was a standard that not only I held myself to, but the men and women who work for me within investigations, I held them to that higher standard as well.
So the way that I used to get cases, and I imagine you guys would get the same,
Yeah.
you get an allegation or information that comes in from the public, maybe it comes in from a prosecutor's office. They say, here's a case we've been reported to us. We'd like to work it. You get it in from a complaint line.
Yeah.
That's a long-term thing. Or it comes in from patrol and they're like, there's more here, right?
Absolutely.
Are those kind of the three routes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other I'm missing?
No, I mean, unless you just happen to.
You're just a guy cruising the internet and you find the
you just
problem.
find it.
Okay, yeah, you're living. Okay, so maybe
Yeah.
you're the complainant. Okay, and when that happens, then you evaluate the case and you start making logical investigative steps.
Correct.
What was the best, let's say, training advice you got from either an FTO or somebody that was moving you into that investigation? Like, what gave you the best foundation on how I'm going to approach this investigation? And do you see that as being common?
Okay, so I will never forget this.
Okay.
It is something that I carry along into the work that I do now because we investigate and vet cases. You have to allow fact and not theory to drive your investigation. Allow fact and not theory to drive what you are doing.
Right.
You have to take the facts for what they are. You can't formulate a theory around facts. You just have to take the facts and accept them. So
What do people normally do?
the exact opposite of that.
And
right?
what does that look like mechanically? I've made an allegation. Where do you go with this allegation?
It starts with
I think Jim was involved in, stealing sandwiches from the shop,
Sure.
and no one can see it. What
Sure.
do you do with that?
It starts with a bias. Like everyone has a bias. Every law enforcement officer has a bias.
Right. We all do.
You take that into your job, into your role every single day.
Yeah.
You have to check that at the door.
You're like, he's got glasses. He worked at the CIA. He's probably the kind of guy that would steal a sandwich.
Correct. Right.
He was never here, by the way.
Correct. Who's not here?
He's not here.
I don't know his name.
Guys, if you're just listening to us and you're like, what are you talking about? We got Jim Erdman, who's a CIA whistleblower, and I'm making him run tech. And so I just keep saying he's not here because he was in the CIA, and nobody in the CIA was ever here. As far as I can tell.
Correct.
Is that true?
This is absolutely true.
Okay, good. Actually, check me. Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, it really boils down to that, right? So if I'm right off the bat, if someone comes up to me and says, Ryan, you're never going to believe this. So-and-so did this to me. They committed a crime. I might take them at face value. But if someone tells me something, it is not a fact until I verify it.
Right.
I have to go out and do the investigative work. I have to do the field work to confirm that what you are telling me is true.
So we need to start from the underlying thing. Were sandwiches stolen?
Absolutely.
Are there missing sandwiches?
Correct.
That's an underlying fact.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Who is the identified victim?
Was it stolen from the shop, or was
Correct.
it taken somewhere in the logistical supply chain before?
This is true.
Okay, so we've got to look at that. Yes,
Yes.
I'm just working through the logic of it.
Yeah, so I'll help you with it.
Okay, keep
All right,
going.
so
Tell
here
me
it
the
is.
other things. What are the other assumptions that we are taking that we have to find?
answer. We have to be able to answer the who, what, where, when, why, and how.
It's like there's a whole thing for it.
You cannot do that. You do not need to proceed with any type of enforcement action. You do not need to proceed with an investigation. If you cannot answer those questions, stop what you are doing, because at that point, you're not basing your investigation facts.
Right. Okay. Here's a mentality that I don't know who told me this or if I came up with it, and I don't know if it's being trained, but I want to know.
Okay.
All right. You made an allegation, or you've given me information that a crime has taken place.
Yes.
And we're the appropriate investigating authority. My first question is, do I have authority over this?
Yeah,
Is this federal?
Yes, you have to determine jurisdiction.
Right. Okay. Is this going to be a state case?
Right.
Is it going to be a state case for a different type of agency? Is it, Fish and Game?
Yes.
Is it not in my parameters? So jurisdictional questions should be number one.
Absolutely.
The second thing is the who, what, when, where, why, right? And then I start from the position of, I'm not the right person to investigate this.
Right.
So I have to justify that I am.
Correct.
So I have to work to that.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Then I try to disprove the theory of the crime that's given to me.
You have to, every step along the way, disprove. You have to answer that question in your mind.
Like, I'm looking for exculpatory because when I get there,
correct.
this case is dead.
Correct. You have to consistently try to prove yourself wrong. You have to prove your witnesses wrong. And to a certain extent, you have to prove your evidence wrong. You have to consistently be at odds. You have to consistently be at odds with yourself and your work.
Is that common?
That is not common.
Why not?
It's just not taught. It's just not taught at the basic level.
Can that be taught, do you
It
think?
absolutely can be taught. Okay. So, and the reason why I know it can be taught is because I implemented policies with the agency that I work for as a field training officer to make sure that happened. It can be taught. It should not be taught at the field level. It really should be introduced at the academy level. And then as you progress in your career and you want to get involved in investigations, that's where that follow-up training and subsequent training becomes so critical. And that's where I think we are failing the young law enforcement officers, because some of that stuff is not being taught in the follow-up training.
I don't want to feed you my answer, but I'm going to give you my supposition, and I want you to challenge it as necessary.
Okay.
I feel like the most important job for an investigator is to be a skeptic as a baseline.
I do not disagree with that. You have to
Is there a more important mentality to come in then? Is there a better way of saying that, or a more important sort of mindset?
In my experience, the answer to your question, in my experience, no. And I'm going to follow up with this.
Okay.
You have to be a truth finder, a truth seeker, and a fact finder. That is your ultimate goal. It does not matter to me what you might think about a case, your opinion about a case. If you allow the facts to drive what you're doing, if you can arrive at the conclusion that your facts tell you, like, hey, this is the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how, I will back you up. Like, I have your back because I understand that we're getting ready to take a solid case to trial. Like, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But if along the way you're not skeptical of your work, if you're not questioning what you are doing, if you don't have that mentality that I know I am fallible, I can be wrong. If you don't carry that into your work, you're doing yourself and you're doing your victims a disservice. The last thing you want to do is put an innocent man or woman in prison for a crime they did not commit.
Because then you've got two victims.
Because you're ruining the lives of multiple families.
And probably the whole families.
Yeah. So it's really tough to say, like, okay, well, if I do A, then B, C, or D is going to result in that. So you have to consistently be like moving 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of yourself. And you have to be willing to go to someone else, a senior investigator, and say, what do you think about the work that I'm doing right now? Does this make sense? How would you have approached this? Like, be willing to bounce ideas off other people, because a lot of the times you're not always right.
Yeah, the sort of question like, what am I missing here?
Correct. You always want to.
And I don't know that this is common. I haven't seen people do this. I'd like to see it, but I'm a skeptic. I kind of just am skeptical of government. It's probably a whole building full of people skeptical of government.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if you're sitting in the same category.
No, yeah.
You're like, me and you are the only people I want working in government. People like Jim who are going to go like, yeah, I'm not sure they're the best guys. People who go, I don't think we're always doing the right thing. And the possibility that we're not is the reason why we should be really careful.
Correct.
And this is a mentality, and I don't see this in cops. In fact, I think this is actually the reason for a lot of law enforcement suicides on retirement.
Okay.
People think that they are the job.
Yeah.
The job is them.
Correct.
It will not continue without them.
Correct.
The minute they step off the carousel, it stops.
Correct.
And then it's proven that the carousel forgot about them the second they got off.
I can say yes to that because it happened to me. Like, it absolutely happened to me.
Yeah, tell me.
When I was a young law enforcement officer, when I started off into investigations, I would work myself down to the point where I was just physically exhausted. I couldn't go any harder than what I went. Right?
Yeah.
Because you self-identified. Your role in law enforcement becomes who you are. Like at some point, you transition from a husband and a father to cop, right? And so your whole persona and whole personality gets wrapped up into that because it's that mentality within the law enforcement community.
Anyone ever tell you that was a danger when you were starting as an
No.
And what
Absolutely.
age? And you went through the academy older than some.
I went through the academy, yeah, because I got out of the military. I joined the military at 18, did 6 years in the military.
So 24, 25?
Yeah, so I was a.
You're still pretty young then.
I was young, but I wasn't old, right? So I mean,
Right.
I had some experience under my belt. I understood teamwork, chain of command, and things like that.
There's just a lot of retarded between like 25 and 28
There
for most
is,
men.
and yes, I dipped my toe in that water. So I mean, it's just, and so I knew I was immature. So you carry that mentality into it because you don't want to be wrong. Like you are the cop. You are the leader on that scene, right? You have the badge, you have the gun. People are going to look to you for answers. And
Imagine you've got the magic wand to change law enforcement culture writ large.
Sure.
How do you fix that?
yeah, again, if I were to wave that magic wand, I would extend the amount of training that officers have to have in the academy probably by double. So you really need to focus in on the possibility that you could get it wrong. You really need to focus in on the possibility of the damage that you can do when you make a bad arrest.
Have you ever seen any training program that teaches here's how you handle when you are wrong because it's inevitable? Have you ever heard that?
I haven't. I
haven't either. I'm just curious.
granted, I've been out of law enforcement for almost 15 years.
It also sounds like you're correcting the problems that still exist.
So the work that I do corrects the problems that still exist.
Right, so it's not.
And I do have friends that are still involved in law enforcement that I keep in contact with,
Sure.
and they're like, "Man, Ryan, I'm glad you got out when you did. It is not the same like when we first started. Like it is just there's very limited support by the chain of command, and then consistently I'm told, look, these young officers, they just don't get it.
There also seems to be a danger of being wrong.
There
Right,
is a
so
danger
people,
there.
yeah. So people are worried about the litigious nature. They're going to be sued. Qualified immunity is disappearing in
Sure.
states all over the place, and that may not be the worst thing, but it's the worst way to give confidence in officers that we're going to back you up and that the state actually stands by if you are within the purview of your duty.
Yeah.
So we're in this weird space where, like, I think this building is probably a group of skeptics saying if you give law enforcement qualified immunity, they got a problem.
Yeah.
I also think you have to have it under limited circumstances to be effective.
You have it, and one of the things, and here's
And that's going to be really challenging to the audience.
It's
so
going to be
sorry, guys.
challenging, and here's why. So as I was making my way out of law enforcement, body cameras became prevalent.
Hmm.
And so with body cameras now being almost mandatory, and the vast majority of local law enforcement officers, right? So they're going to wear their body cam.
It's the expectation
It's
of
the
the public.
expectation,
Yeah.
and it's also the expectation that you are going to be filmed doing your job by the public.
Right.
I didn't have to contend with that when I was a young officer. We didn't really have cell phones, and
It is intense,
it becomes intense. And
especially if it's new to you. I think the thing is, people are coming into that culture where it's just default. If you sign up today, you know that.
yeah,
It would have been crazy for you to transition to that.
Yeah, it was
The
difficult.
FBI is doing it right now. It's crazy.
because I had to tell the young officers, the guys and girls who work for me, we're going to wear these body cameras. Like anytime you interact with the public, you're going to turn it on.
Yeah.
We started putting cameras in cars,
Yep.
and you do it, number one, to protect the citizens that you're interacting with, and you do it to protect the officer as well, because there are people who don't like law enforcement. There are people who will come down and say, "Hey, Sergeant, I need to file a complaint against your officer."
Yeah.
And one of the first things I say is, give me the officer's name, give me the date and time of the incident, and let's go look at the body cam footage. Let's go look at the video. If this was a traffic stop, I want to see the video from your car. If this was a one-on-one officer to citizen counter, let's pull up that body camera footage and let me take a look at it. I'm going to do that on my own. Then I'm going to call you back into my office, and then we're going to have a conversation, and let's talk about this.
Right.
So, I mean, a good supervisor will understand the responsibility that they have to protect the citizens first and foremost, and then the officers that they work for as well, because it builds confidence in the chain of command as you consistently show the officers that, look, I have your back when you are going to do something right, but if you don't, there's a potential that I'm going to drop the hammer on you.
So for me, that goes back to the thing you said earlier. At some point, you stopped being husband, father. You became cop first.
Cop,
As
yeah.
that becomes, and that I think is very common.
It's very common.
I think it's maybe the most common
It's
thing.
super common.
I think it's also one of the most dangerous things that happens for law enforcement.
Yes.
Writ large.
It is, because at that point, the public views you as an extension of the government and not as a human being.
And you do too.
Yes.
That's the other piece of it.
That's the scary part, because regardless of whether or not you understand it, when you respond to a call for service, even if the person who called you for help, they are still scrutinizing the work that you are doing.
Right.
So,
and you are the cops.
And you are the cops.
When I was showing up at doors, the FBI, like, it's just me. It's just Kyle.
Yeah.
Knocking on the door.
Correct.
And like, I'm like, hey, can I talk to so-and-so? And the answer is, the FBI's here.
Right.
It's not the whole FBI. I look behind me. It's just me. I'm
Correct.
just standing there. You're by yourself. You're not the cops. You're a cop.
Correct.
But you're everybody, all in one.
But you are everybody. You're all at one. You're every bad cop that's ever worn that badge. That is you.
Or every good cop.
Or every good cop.
If they have good experience.
If they have good experience. And I do want to accentuate that.
Yeah.
But there are individuals who no matter what, if you show up at their door, if you interact with them, you're automatically the bad guy.
Oh, 100%. I very much agree with that. So this role where you become your job first, which I think is really dangerous for anything.
It's very dangerous.
I'd never heard anyone train it. I never heard anyone teach it. But I was 35 when might have been 36 when I went through the FBI Academy.
Okay.
So I had age on you.
Yeah.
I had age on everybody in my class except one guy.
Yeah.
So I was the oldest of 50.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always knew is that I was like, husband first.
Correct.
I was a father shortly thereafter.
Correct.
So I'm a father first because I'll always be those things.
Correct.
I'm not always going to be an FBI agent. I've actually proved that. I got 6 years in and they kicked me out, and what happened to me was not very fun, but I knew that wasn't a permanent place.
Correct.
So when I watched these guys that were facing retirement and they were like looking down the barrel of like a couple of, bottles of Jim Beam every morning because they didn't know what else to do.
Right.
I knew that wasn't going to be me, but I also know how prevalent that is in culture because I get to watch it, and it doesn't happen. It's federal, it's state. Everybody thinks, like you said, like I like to say, the carousel it just stops.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like game over.
Yeah.
How will they exist without me? It's like you're going to be shocked to find out they won't even remember you in a week.
Correct.
Because they care about what you did in the last 24 hours. You're not even on shift anymore. Adios, bro.
Right.
But if we train that mentality, I think that, call me crazy, correct this if you think so, but it seems like if we could put, you're going to be the things you will always be. You are husband, you are father, you're American citizen up front.
Right.
One day, whatever it is that you are doing will be done unto you. It was previously before you got here.
Correct.
And it will be done again when you get off the carousel.
Correct.
Then maybe you have that mentality a little differently, and fallibility is acceptable.
It absolutely has to be.
Because you have to be able to see yourself from the other side. And I think a lot of people don't.
It is difficult to step back from that culture and step back from that mentality and self-evaluate. I mean, like in the military, there were that alpha male mentality, and that carries over into law enforcement to a certain extent. I'm not going to say across the board, but it does carry over. And there's ego at play. And so if I would have had...
I'm just thinking, like, whenever somebody's like, yeah, these civilians, I was like, bro, you're a civilian. You're not in the military. If you're not in the military, like, I've got buddies who are cops and National Guardsmen. Yeah. And I love it. It's like, they're not civilians.
It's
but like,
hard to flip that switch.
They're a civilian sometimes. Yeah. There's something very funny about pointing out to people, like, sorry, bro, you are a civilian cop.
Correct.
There's something and you're not it.
Yes. And
I hate that, by the way.
I wish I would have had a wise sergeant or a wise lieutenant or a wise captain from Jump Street tell me, you are going to put your wife and your kids first, foremost, and always. I didn't have that guidance when I was young.
How do you think you would have received it, putting your, thinking back to then?
I probably would have stored that information and not processed it in the way that I should have, because it would not have been reinforced.
Right.
So
the job doesn't reinforce that.
And the job doesn't reinforce that, because if you don't give 110% to the job, am I going to get passed over for a promotion? Am I going to get passed over for that special assignment?
Right.
And so you consistently think about those things because you want to advance, you want to promote your career, you want, And so you're consistently wanting that, hey, look at me. So whether it's your physical fitness standards, your physical fitness requirements, your ability to go out on the gun range and shoot 100 on range day, your ability to run 1.5 miles at 9 minutes. I mean, you're consistently
hoofing it,
right? So you want to do that. Oh, do you want to get involved in tactical operations? Step your game up, brother, because you're going to need it. Like, so it's that consistent.
Find some legal steroids, get on T.
Yeah, I do, man. So it's like
get hard.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like that mentality that's consistently shoved down your throat, and then there's like this old wise getting ready to retire cop that pulls you aside and says, like, brother, you're doing this wrong.
And he's probably divorced.
Yeah, he's on his third divorce, but he's like, man, look, if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would not do what you're doing because you're doing it wrong. And so by that point, you're kind of setting your ways. You're maybe 5, 6, 7 years into your career, and you're like, that old guy, I'm not going to. But I mean, that's sage advice.
So, but the reason why I'm honing in on that, and this is culture, this is law enforcement culture writ large, and it doesn't specifically maybe connect to people thinking about, oh, well, how does that work with wrongful convictions? How does that work with poor outcomes in law enforcement? I think they're inextricably linked. Yes. That if you have people that are not prioritizing things like taking care of their own family, recognizing that one day they will also be treated the same way by the state, one day they will be a guy with a retirement, credentials, and nobody gives a shit.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Do you think that would play into the way that these wrongful convictions and maybe some of the poor investigations?
It doesn't, and here's why. So, and again, I'm gonna go back to the academy because there's certain things that you were taught in the academy was, at the end of the day, you want to go home at the end of your shift.
Right.
So, and they're always talking about safety. Everybody you interact with is a suspect.
They're all them.
They're all them, right?
And
so
we're all us.
It's us versus them. So everybody you encounter, they're dangerous. Everybody you encounter is wanting to hurt you. So they dehumanize at the very beginning in the police academy. And so they not only dehumanize the public, but they dehumanize you because they say, you are the cop. Not you are Ryan, the husband, the father, the uncle, the veteran. You are Ryan, the cop. And so you kind of, from Jump Street, you're making that transition from human being to extension of the government.
Yeah, agent of the government.
Agent of the government. And then while you're interacting and doing your job, when your partner shows up on scene, it's 2 agents of the government versus 1 person.
Yeah.
Or it's 3 agents of the government versus 2 people. So you maintain that us versus them mentality always, because at the end of the day, it's like, we want you to go home at the end of your shift.
Sure.
So, I mean,
But that, and then here's the problem with that. That's super important too.
It is super important. It is.
So I see this. It's like so many things. There's no easy answer. This is obviously a gray zone that we're working in.
Yeah.
You have this safety mentality that's required,
Sure.
and to really be good, you have to always be on your game. We've all seen the video of a cop getting shot just walking on a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Guy goes to a domestic and he becomes the target, and whatever the victim is killed too, or maybe not at all, and they just turn around and it's an ambush on somebody else. So we've all seen what that looks like.
Yes.
And it's terrifying. There's a lot of families being raised without a husband or a wife because of that.
Yeah.
So maybe not a lot like by percentage, but there's a volume of them that's scary.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the only way that you're going to break through the barriers when you're doing your interview is you're going to have to be a human being, and you're going to have to develop rapport, which is what we're always taught as well.
Yeah, you have to. And
those are conflicting.
It is conflicting, and it is difficult to strike that balance. And here's why. If I show up to a domestic violence scene and all I know is that a husband and wife have been arguing, right? How do I make my way into that home, de-escalate that situation, let them know that I am here to help and that I am a human being here to help, but how do I not walk into someone's home and be disrespectful in their home to those individuals, right? So if I go into that home and there's a gentleman who's upset, and as soon as I walk into that home, the first thing I do is start cussing and yelling and pointing my finger and blah, blah, blah. I'm disrespecting that man inside his home.
Yeah, and in front of his wife.
And in front of his wife.
Who may or may not be the instigator.
Correct. So, you try to strike that balance from the second.
She really might be.
She could be. So you strike that, and it's difficult to strike that balance because you have to, number one, once you get on scene, you have to establish control. You have to reestablish and get everybody calmed down, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have to figure out what the heck happened. So do I tell my partner, hey, take the wife outside the house? I'll stay in here with the husband. We're and then you're consistently thinking like, are there weapons involved? Is there a weapon, within reach? Am I scanning for a weapon? So, and so, do I need to put this guy in handcuffs, like pat him down super quick, and then like, hey, let's continue this conversation. So you're consistently thinking those thoughts, and then it's just reinforcing, hey, you're going home at the end of the day. But there are ways to de-escalate, and there are ways to solve issues that don't involve, get over here, I'm going to cuss at you, I'm going to yell and disrespect in front of your house. And so there are ways to do that, to be effective in your role, to be effective in your job, and to do that safely and to resolve the situation. So there's ways to mediate. And I don't think a lot of that is being taught either. So I mean, there are some like de-escalation techniques that were coming into play towards the end of my career in law enforcement, because it became mandated by the state to do that, because that was a problem with de-escalation.
Is there enough training in that to make it effective, or is it just something that you have to check a box? And
It's 2 hours a year.
So yeah, it's super effective.
It's like, yes.
That's about as effective as the whistleblower training I used to get. Or
Yeah.
they
It's like,
tell you look for fraud, waste, and abuse, but don't report it, God forbid, because we'll destroy you if
So
you do.
you have to do, like where I grew up, like in work, you had to do 20 hours minimum, 20 hours of training per year. 20 minimum. That's
Of
it.
any kind of training.
Any kind of training. That was really to law enforcement. Two hours came in at firearms. Everything else, those other 18 hours.
2 hours for the whole year?
Correct. Now, I trained usually at...
Well, but it was on your dime, on your time.
No, I actually was one of those guys. I was the assistant team leader for our SWAT team. And so I got the privilege of shooting whenever I wanted and as many rounds as I wanted to. So I took advantage of that. But then there were other officers who's like, hey, I'm just going to do my 50 rounds a year, and then I'm good to go because the state says I can do that. So then they're like, oh, hey, you got to do de-escalation training now. I was like, oh, that's great. I want to train these young officers on de-escalation. They are getting themselves hurt. They're hurting other people.
Right.
They're giving us a bad reputation. It's like, okay, let me attend this training. It's online and it's 2 hours.
Super effective.
And I'm like, this is, all you got to do is hit forward.
Right.
And so the 2 hour block of instruction becomes like a 30-minute block of instruction.
Right.
With a 10-question true or false test at the end of it. And you can check the box that you've done 2 hours of de-escalation. So that is, I mean, that's the mentality that is being trained, and that's the mentality that I've seen. And I promise you, I'm not knocking law enforcement. I'm not here to knock law enforcement.
Right.
I'm just saying that these are some identified issues that I continue to see because I have friends now. One of the gentlemen that I trained when I was a young officer is now the chief of police where I used to work.
Cool.
And so the assistant chief of police was an officer that worked with me on my shift. So, I mean, I know that
You're seeing the people that were with you now in the brass.
right.
Yeah.
And they are doing things that need to be done correct.
Sure.
So
Does that failure to train, or that now maybe sort of growth in training and recognizing that there's some weaknesses there? Hopefully, there's role playing involved if you're doing de-escalation,
yes,
because
there is.
otherwise,
There
like, what the hell are we
absolutely
doing?
is. Yeah, there absolutely is.
Yeah, and that can be it can be very effective. I've done it, and I was a paramedic as well. So it's like, when I was doing that, good role playing is very good.
Critical.
Bad role playing teaches you terrible habits.
Yeah, what are you getting out of
and
it?
you're useless.
Yeah.
The question is does that play into false convictions? Does that play into maybe, I guess it's improper policing that results in some of that stuff?
It could be. And again, I keep going back to training, but if you do not know how to process a crime scene, if you do not know how to sit down with another human being and conduct an interview, whether it's a field interview or over at the station or in a formal setting, if you do not know how to get somebody to open up to you, how are you going to be effective in investigating crime? How do you become effective in getting people who are already reluctant to talk to law enforcement to talk to you now that you're out there on the scene as a detective, right? So they're already going to be skeptical of you because you show up on the scene. And then now I want to get them to open up and talk to me. And so that being able to establish that rapport becomes critical. And you develop that while you are on patrol. You develop that ability to talk to another human being and connect with that human being on patrol. At least you should.
That's what I was going to say, because it's not necessarily a one-to-one. You've done this much time, you have this skill set now, right? I mean,
no, it's not. And again, that's incumbent upon the field training officer or the frontline supervisor, field supervisor, to ensure that those officers are interacting with the public in the most professional manner possible. So when I went out and did field interviews as an investigator, right? I wanted to sit down in somebody's house. The very first thing I talked about was not the case. I had to establish a rapport. If it took me 3 or 4 more times going back there to talk to that witness, so be it. A lot of the times what I would talk about is like, oh, hey, do you know my brother? Do you know my sister? I grew up in this area. Oh, man, I live right down the street from you. Did we go to high school together?
Right.
Man, are you still in that band? Man, I remember when you were in high school, you played this band. Like, so you try to establish that rapport from Jump Street and make that connection, kind of put people at ease and like, look, man, this is why I'm here. This is why I want to talk to you. I just need some basic information because I really want to get this taken care of, man. This, the person that was shot, the person that was harmed, look, I think we may have grown up with them. I think we know them. They're your neighbor. If this were to happen to your son, I know you have a 10-year-old son. You would want me here talking to you in the same manner that I'm doing right now. So
you have to earn the opportunity to ask for the information.
You have to earn it. You can't just walk in and say, I have a badge, I have a gun, open up your notepad and say, tell me what happened. It's like,
I do like that though. So tell me all the things. And if the scenario was so perfect, then somebody would just say, oh, well, it was this person and they were this height and they were this thing and this is what they were driving and here's the last four of the license plate. I got
closed.
that. Yeah, you're like, wow.
Especially, and so when I started working in crimes against children,
Yeah.
and you had to interview or take part in interviewing a child or the mother. It's not, how do you get a child to open up and recollect one of the most horrendous and heartbreaking experiences of their life?
Yes.
It's not, tell me what happened. So, and again, more specialized training, but, we'd sit at tables that were low to the ground, chairs that were low to the ground. We would talk. At the time, I had a beard a little bit longer than yours. And so they asked me about my beard, and I'm covered in tattoos, and they want to talk about the tattoos. And it would probably take me 2 or 3 months to establish a rapport with a child. And then really what I was doing was earning the trust of the parent. Like, right. I could gain the trust of a child relatively quickly because by nature, because they're kids. Yeah. But it's the parents that I have.
And if you have a loving disposition towards kids,
and
they know.
And they know. Yeah. And so it was the parent who's like, wait a second, my baby's been hurt. Who are you?
Right. And what's going on with all that? Show your hands.
Correct.
You're
correct.
Like,
so
you're inked down to the knuckles.
Yeah, on my chest. And then once I opened up and once they realized who I was and where my heart was.
Right.
I've been invited back out to those homes even to this day to have dinner with some of these families. Mm-hmm. So, it's you have to take the time to establish that rapport and to understand exactly what happened. It's not, hey, I'm here to do my job and I just have to conduct this interview and I'm going to pull my tape recorder out and record it because I have to go on to the next interview. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot of time. It's like, no, I'm clearing my plate for the entire day if necessary. I want to talk to you and I want to hear what you have to say.
When did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 94.
Okay, so you got a couple years on me, but I think we experienced something that happened in our lifetimes.
Yes.
Which was that officers used to be 2 to a car.
Absolutely.
In our lifetimes, that has changed radically.
It has changed radically.
And we've demanded more bodies on the street with the same amount of money. And so we put so much on police officers, and I don't think it's fair. And this was something I used to tell cops when I was a Fed. They'd be like, hey man, why do you guys make so much more money than us? And I was like, oh, because your work matters more. They have to pay me because I think the stuff that we did a lot of times is not nearly as impactful. And I meant that honestly. That wasn't me being glib, although I am pretty glib. Like I'm a pretty glib guy. No. But I think that's true. I think the work was so much more meaningful, harder as well. Yeah. And very unfair. So we demanded an awful lot of cops.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's fair-minded, even my brother, who's like an uber lib, he's a very liberal guy.
Yeah.
He's like, I want super cops that are super educated, that have tons of time for training and are paid a ton of money to make the best decisions so that I know I'm getting an awesome outcome. I want a psychologist, Navy SEAL. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, bro, that's not happening. Yeah. They don't exist. That's a cool fantasy. Yeah. What you got is a broken and, flawed human being who's doing the damn best they can. Yeah. Who's suffering through some sort of problems in their own.
Sure.
And they're going to show up at the job and they're going to do the best they can and they're not getting trained. They're not having enough downtime. They're being overworked. They're being underpaid. So they're doing extra shifts. And they're getting burned the hell out.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So we've got that guy out there.
Yeah.
And the answer you've said is more training. And unfortunately, like what I think we both probably recognize is that means more money.
It means more money.
And it means hiring more guys so you can take them off rotate them in and out.
Yeah. And that,
so how do you fix that?
That adds to this vicious loop, right? When I got involved in law enforcement, my starting salary, I think it was $14.50 an hour.
Kick ass, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's about what I was making as a paramedic when I was literally had lives in my hand. You had lives in your hand. And you're like, cool, you're going to pay me under $15 an hour.
Correct.
And people die in my hands.
Correct.
And in your hands.
And I'm going to have to work 12-hour shifts.
That's right.
And I'm going to work at night because I'm a young officer.
Yep.
And I'm not going to have the privilege of having the brass observe me what I do. I'm going to have a sergeant, lieutenant, and that's going to be the extent of it. Mm-hmm. And so it was a recipe for failure. Like and it was like a sink or swim situation. The agency that I worked for, and this is what I mean by this vicious cycle. The agency that I worked for relied a lot on civil asset forfeiture to pay for training.
It's brutal too.
It's brutal, and so.
Do you want to explain what that is? Not everybody in my audience will know what that is, and certainly if they're part of the Feds4Freedom or the Feds4Freedom, that may not be common to them. So what is civil asset forfeiture? How does it work?
Oh yeah, it is in short, it's legalized theft.
Yeah.
So civil asset forfeiture is law enforcement seizing one's property not because a crime occurred, but they seize it because it could be either the proceeds of a crime, and then that the individual who has to then go into court and prove how they got that car, how they got that money, how they got the house, how they got that boat, to ensure that it was not purchased illegally, right? So
How does that differ from a normal investigation of a crime?
yeah, so the standard of proof is like super low. So it's a civil process versus a criminal process, right?
Okay.
So
Preponderance of the evidence?
yeah. So if I'm driving and I get stopped by law enforcement and I have my tax return check with me and I just got it cashed and I've got $4,000 or $5,000 and I have a joint in the car with me, that opens the door for law enforcement to seize that money.
Yeah, you might be dealing.
You might be dealing. How did you get that money? It was, I just got my income tax check return, you know? Now I partnered up with a couple of task force with the FBI. One of them was a safe street gang task force, and then it was public corruption task force. And so I got to go into some wire rooms, tap rooms, and up on some sneak and peek warrants and listen to some of the stuff that was going on, and get to listen to some of the behind the scenes action about civil asset forfeiture, right? So so there is a legitimate way, and I say legitimate, I mean there's a lawful way to do it.
Yeah.
Versus a local. I'm knocking local law enforcement. I'm really not trying to, but local law enforcement think that they can just seize whatever they want as proceeds from a crime. Like, so if you're going to execute a search warrant, a dope search warrant, you go into a house. It's like, when I first started in tactical operations, like big screen TVs were like new. And so anyone who had a big screen TV, they were selling dope because the average man couldn't afford a big screen TV.
Mm-hmm.
So law enforcement would
take the TV.
And then
they've got to prove that it wasn't from dope sales.
Correct. That they just didn't, buy the TV outright, something like that. So, I mean, it puts the burden of the proof. It puts burden of proof on the individual. So it's like, you have to prove to me that this was not illegal proceeds. It's
literally the mirror image of the expectation that you are
innocent.
presumed.
Proving, yeah.
You're not presumed innocent.
Right.
Your property is presumed illegally obtained.
Absolutely.
That's crazy too for people. And anyone who's never dealt with it, and a lot of people have never.
It is.
When it happens to someone who didn't, and it happens badly so we have a woman that's been on this podcast a lot. Millions of dollars were taken from her.
Yes.
She was an attorney. She had a business. Her name's Amy Nelson. If you guys haven't seen the Amy Nelson episode, go look. Multiple versions of it. The feds came in and they took everything she had, including her home.
Yeah.
And they did it because Amazon had lobbied to get a felony against her husband so they could break a $100 million contract.
Good grief.
And so they literally lobbied. This is something that generally doesn't happen probably at the DA office. This is a United States Attorney's Office thing.
Sure.
But brought in former United States attorneys to lobby the current United States Attorney's Office to take a case of a felony against her. And they did. And in order to make them submit and plead guilty, straight up took all their assets. And so they couldn't afford, legal defense. Wildly awful. And so these things can be really, really bad. And the problem is there's a useful application of that tool.
There is a useful application in the sense that if it's done correctly, it can help offset budgetary shortfalls at the local level.
Doesn't it also seem that they should have proved that there was the crime first? Shouldn't someone have to have been?
And that's terrible.
The crazy part.
Don't have to prove crime. I don't have to convict you of anything. You just have to prove to me how you got this property.
Yeah, and it's more likely than not. So preponderance of the evidence is not the shadow of a doubt standard that it would take to put somebody in prison.
Right,
which is crazy.
Is it more probable than not that this big screen TV was purchased with proceeds from the sale of marijuana?
It's freaking insane.
All you have to show in the house a lot of times is a picture of a bag of marijuana and a scale. And it's like, okay, well, it's more probable not that they were selling dope and that they purchased that particular item. And it is. And there's a process you have to go through. You have to post it at the courthouse and say, hey, we're going to seize this property or blah, blah, blah. And it costs additional money to defend yourself against that.
And they've taken your money.
So most people just let their property go.
You can imagine that's probably really unpopular in this room that we're in right now and that room in front of us.
Correct. It's wildly unpopular. Wildly unpopular. And please don't hold me to this number, but I was reading stats a little while ago, and I think it was in 2023 or 2024, local law enforcement had seized, it was somewhere between $3 or $4 billion.
Oh, I could see it being a lot higher even. And there's just, it's happening. I mean, there's about 1 million sworn officers in this country. And how many departments do you think there are? Thousands?
Oh, there would have to be thousands. I mean, in Georgia, we have 159 counties, and there's 2 law enforcement agencies in each county.
At least.
So, and so, again, going back to that loop that we're talking about is if an agency becomes so self-reliant on seized funds, why would that agency head go to the mayor, go to the city council and say, hey, I need more money for training? You say, right, just go seize more property.
Right.
And then if you talk about municipalities, a lot of the times municipalities have private for-profit probation companies assigned to a municipal court. So it just helps perpetuate and prop up these processes, and it's unfortunate.
Tell me if I'm wrong. The answer needs to be that people from the people listening here, people in community, have to say, we want to save community. It's going to cost money. We understand what that cost is, and we believe they're being good stewards of our money, which may or may not be true. And we want to put the money in so that we get better law enforcement. And there has to either be increase in taxes, they have to pay more into it, or you're going to have to cut somewhere else, which would be the best thing in my case. There are places that could be cut.
Oh, there's always places that can be cut.
There's a lot of fat in every government at every level. And if the priority is the citizens demand that the money is spent here, you would get it. You don't see that. People always want to squeeze sort of, blood from the stone when it comes to law enforcement. I think they do the same thing in fire, although fire seems like they got a pretty cush gig. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah.
What, isn't that the thing? It's like everybody loves firefighters, but they're just like hanging out and working out, and like it could be a hard job, but it's not the same as being a cop.
I had dinner with a few firefighters on shift.
I lived at a firehouse for a month and a half when I was on going through my paramedic rotations, and it's like, bro, this is a chill job. It's part-time and they get full-time pay. Oh, man, yeah. They got another side hustle. They're like working a cabinet business.
And they get to have cool mustaches while they do their jobs, too.
That's right. Everyone's happy to see them. They want to high-five them. You see cops, people are like, oh, shit, there's cops.
I know,
Nobody goes, oh, man, the firefighters are here.
Right.
Nobody's ever scatter.
I could show up to an event with firefighters and everyone would run to the firefighters.
100%.
Yeah.
And you just saved somebody's life 10 minutes ago, and they're like, tickling corpses or something. Yeah, awful. They're going to Mitch McConnell's house and finding out he was already dead.
Right. No, I don't know, man. I heard someone called him and like he's alive. And
Tom Massey said he talked to him, said a bunch of good stuff. Someone posted a picture of him hanging out on the beach with them this morning, one of the ladies I follow. So I'm pretty sure he's dead, to be fair.
Yeah, fair.
Pretty sure he's dead.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. You've seen CPR on an 80-year-old man.
Yes.
84-year-old man. Yeah. Any good outcomes out of that?
Zero good outcomes.
I did this bit the other day, and I was a paramedic for a decade. I have exactly one save from CPR in the field. Yeah. It almost never happens. You ever seen somebody come back?
No.
Kids sometimes, if that happens, because they respond
quickly.
But generally speaking, if you meet somebody that had CPR performed on them in the field, and then you meet them in real life, like after that, they're a zombie.
They're really damaged. Yes.
They're probably ready to eat you.
Yeah.
Like they're looking for brain or something.
Yeah,
so you gotta be careful.
Correct.
Anyhow, so I watched that. We had there was a lady that was doing a reporting. She said it was 4.6% survival rate of 80-year-olds who had CPR in the field after 30 days. Yeah. So you may be technically alive, but you're an organ incubator.
Yeah, you're not.
All right.
You're not. That quality of life is limited.
So your organization specific. We've been talking about training. We've been talking about sort of like law enforcement, your experience. I think all those things are relevant to share the lens.
Yeah.
You're here at what is primarily like a libertarian type leaning. It's a freedom. It's conservative. It's nationalist. But this organization, people here are concerned with liberty and freedom.
Yes.
What is your organization? Why are you guys tied into this? What makes you show up here and wander around with a badge on?
Yes. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is being able to successfully defend our clients against government overreach and government. And so I take the training that I'd received for 20 plus years and apply it to help our clients to fight the government, right? So the team that I work with and the team that we built understands the mission of the organization, understands what we are trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. We're not out there pointing fingers at someone saying, hey, you're the bad guy, you're Frankenstein's monster. What we are doing is every single thing that we do is based upon our foundational ideology, which is the principle of human respect. So basically that means coercion, theft, and violence will always reduce one's happiness, harmony, or prosperity. That's not going to change throughout your lifetime, and it does not matter who the primary aggressor is, right?
That's kind of a libertarian principle.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the Libertarian Institute right in front of us. They got a banner that's like right in my sight line. It's like, okay, I can track that. So that's the obvious connection.
That's the obvious connection. And so we keep we define our work as like our work begins when a violation of the principle of human respect occurs, right? So every time we receive an application, because we're on pace to receive over 1,500 applications this year nationwide, applications for assistance. And so we have a team that looks over that, vets those causes, vets those applications. But the way we approach our advocacy, and I really and truly believe in my heart of hearts, the reason why we have been so successful is we start with the person who is being harmed, and we start with the individual who is causing harm. So we start with people first.
Okay.
Secondly, we then move on to the policy that is causing the harm. And then third, we tie everything back into the principle of human respect, or that violation, and how that if that violation of the principle of human respect did not occur, then our client and their communities would be far better off. And so we approach our advocacy work in that perspective. And I believe that's really and truly why we've been able to have a 96% success rate over the past 4 years. We can open doors to legislators, we can open doors to lawmakers, policymakers, because we're not attacking. I'm not on the attack against anybody. I'm saying, look, you have harmed this human being. These are the policies that have harmed this human being. Let's sit down and have a rational, adult, respectful conversation, and let's get this issue resolved. And so that approach doesn't involve coercion. It doesn't involve theft. It doesn't involve violence. It doesn't involve anything other than mutual, respectful conversation. And it works. It absolutely, positively works.
Okay. I got two final questions for you. We'll wrap this up.
All right, brother.
Question number one is, how is that received by law enforcement as you come in and essentially are questioning the work that was done? And obviously there's a lot of ego and pride that goes into that.
There is.
And the follow-up to it, and I'll let you answer them both as you see fit, is what happens, because inevitably someone's going to present you a case saying, hey, I was wrongfully convicted, and they were not. And how do you guys suss that out?
Yeah, so there is always initial pushback from any government entity or any government agency when you call them out on their bad deeds. There's always going to be pushback.
Always.
So the thing is, and we remind the team and we remind our clients, is we have the truth on our side. And so we tie that back into your second question, which is how do we differentiate between someone who is innocent and someone who is guilty, right? So an innocent man's going to say, I'm innocent. A guilty man's going to say, I'm innocent, help me, right? So we have a very rigorous vetting process. So we spend anywhere between 200 to 600 hours vetting these causes. So we have a team of medical experts, lawyers, doctors, paralegals, volunteers who do nothing but vet these causes on behalf of the organization. So when we can go public with a cause and we say our client is factually innocent, that sets us above the governmental standard, right? So when we say someone is factually innocent, we don't mean that they're innocent based on a technicality because the government couldn't prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. What we say is they're factually innocent because they did not commit the crime for which they have been accused.
So you have some sort of exculpatory evidence before you accept it.
Yes, we have that exculpatory evidence. We have when we can definitively say and go public and say, our client is factually innocent.
And how do you guys fund it, and how do people find you?
Okay, so that's
Is that the money? Is that the money question?
Yeah,
I mean, that's literally the money question, isn't it?
Yeah. So we are a grassroots organization. We are member sustained, and we have donors. We don't take any government funding, government grants, or anything like that. Yeah. So we have donors and we have members who contribute to us, and we have a little over 5,000 members across the country. We operate in all 50 states. We just happen to be based in Georgia, based in Atlanta, but we operate in all 50 states. And so if anyone wants to get in contact with us, you can go to youarethepower.net. And then on our website, you can hit contact us. If you want to volunteer with the organization, again, it's just youarethepower.net/volunteer. If you want our help, if you want us to take a look at a potential cause, youarethepower.net/help. And one of the things that we always do is when anyone reaches out to us, we'll respond to them within 24 to 48 hours. And if that email comes across my desk, I'm going to pick up the phone and call you. I'm going to leave you my personal cell phone number. You can call me back and let's have that discussion.
Yeah. Who are the people that are going to look at this? What kind of backgrounds will be able to offer assistance as volunteers?
Yep. So we have two vetting teams. We have a national vetting team, which handles things like eminent domain, unconstitutional local ordinances, First Amendment issues, things of that nature. And then we have a second vetting team that handles child protective services, child welfare, and family policing cases. And so I'll just start with the family policing cases, our family reunification program. We have medical doctors, we have attorneys, we have nurses, we have mothers and fathers with lived experience who have gone through those types of cases who guide and who guide the team along the way. And then we have two incredible women who manage that program for us. One of them is the lead coordinator for that program is a mother with lived experience, and then the lead investigator is a woman who has spent the majority of her adult life working in criminal investigations in general. So if you're talking about the national vetting team, again, we have a psychiatrist, we have a medical doctor, we have a nurse, and then we just have a team of volunteers who are just dedicated to document collection and processing these requests for assistance.
All right. So if people are interested, the link is actually in the show description right now, so you guys can scroll down there. If you're watching on X, you're going to have to go look at it on Rumble. You're going to have to look at it on YouTube. Make sure you guys like this video if you're watching. We're streaming live out of Las Vegas because we're trying to give you guys some cool information. It's different than what I normally do. Obviously, we had a little technical glitches sitting down, but I appreciate you flexing through that with me.
Yeah, brother.
And thanks for giving me the time. I enjoyed talking to you. So, Ryan, thanks so much.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
All right.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
very good. I'm going to have to stand up there and turn it off unless my man knows how to do it. It's I'll come do it. It's fine. We're winging it here.
Winging it, man.
We don't
It's
have to
live.
pretend like we're more professional than we are. We're just guys trying to get something done, having a good conversation.
It's live.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
All right, brother.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
All right, man.
There it goes.
Oh, you don't even get like a half step increase or anything?
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.